What's up, duels? I'm Ashton, and welcome to another Testing Tuesday, where every Tuesday I try out one of Yu-Gi-Oh's many different decks and archetypes, give you a little bit about what I expect from the deck, show some highlight duels, and then give you some final thoughts at the end. This week, we have Traptrix, an extremely budget-friendly new deck that is seeing waves in the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh format because, well, A, it's cheap, and B, it's pretty good. So, let's talk a little bit about the deck first, and then I'll get into the duels. So Traptrix is a control deck that centers around, well, traps. It's a deck that can easily search traps, easily recur traps, and easily be able to get resources back so that they can control the board state and keep advantage. It does all of that through a lot of its monsters. The main one being Traptrix Mermelio. It's been around for a long time, still a really good card. Whenever it's normal summon, you're going to go ahead and add a whole normal trap from your deck to your hand. Also, many of the Traptrix monsters have a secondary effect when they are special summoned, like Mermelio. Whenever it's special summoned, it targets a spell trap your opponent controls and can just destroy that target. Next up, we have Traptrix Mantis. When Mantis is normal summon, you're going to add a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand. It can also bounce a spell trap that you control, so you can reset it, and that can be the same one. So let's say you have a Floodgate Trap Hole set. You can go ahead and activate Mantis, bounce the Floodgate Trap Hole, and then reset it immediately. Now you might be thinking, what is that for? We're going to talk about that in just a second. We're also playing two Traptrix Dionea. Whenever it's normal summon, I can target a Traptrix in the graveyard, special summon in defense. But more often, we're going to go ahead and use its secondary effect when it's special summon to be able to target a whole normal trap in graveyard, set that target, but banish it during the end phase of your next turn. If it is still on the field, it probably won't be. For some of the newer cards, we are playing Traptrix Pudica. When it's normal summon, I'm going to go ahead and add a Traptrip Garden from deck to hand. And if it's specialed, I can target a special summon monster my opponent controls and banish it, but during the next standby phase, your opponent can special summon one of their banished monsters. So it's only temporary removal, but it is good in a pinch. Lastly, we are playing two Traptrix Arachnocampa. Arachnocampa protects our spell and traps and our back row from being destroyed one time each. And then also, quick effect, as long as it's in hand and we have a Traptrix monster on the field, we can go ahead and special summon it so we can just hold it off until our opponent's turn, then slap it down on the field for protection. That about does it for the main deck monsters. Everything else, except for maybe Parallel Exceed, which is basically just a really good extender, is hand traps. So we're playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, and we are playing 3 Nibiru the Primal Being. Now the rest of the deck is all traps and good generic staples. We're going to start with the spell Traptrip Garden. Traptrip Garden is also a new card, which gives us an additional normal summon of a Traptrix monster in addition to our other normal summoner set. So it's really good, especially if you only have like a Pudica in hand, can get us into some more plays. Also, the first time each insect or plant monster you control will be destroyed by battle each turn, they're all plant monsters and insects. It is not destroyed, and you can banish a monster you control, special summon a Traptrix from hand or graveyard. That does come up. We're playing 3 Pot of Prosperity because our extra deck is flexible and it is pretty good to use in this deck. Playing 3 Traptrix Holotea. This is sort of the card that got introduced into this deck that makes it go fully around. You can activate it the turn it was set by discarding a normal trap, special summon it as a defense position monster, the plant, earth, level 4, 400 attack, 2400 defense, pretty beefy. And then you can also banish this card from your graveyard, target a Traptrix monster in the graveyard, and special summon it. You can only use once per turn. What this is going to be is basically it is going to be able to be a 1-turn trap activation, which is going to trigger off of our Link monster Sarah, and it is going to get us a body on the field that we can then XC summons into our Traptrix XCs monsters. We are also playing Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare. If your opponent has a special summon monster this turn, target a monster your opponent controls with 2000 or more attack, destroy it. Then if you have a whole normal trap in your graveyard, you can banish one monster from your opponent's graveyard. You can only do it once per turn. Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. When a monster that was special summoned this turn activates effect on your opponent's field, negate it if you do destroy it. Floodgate Trap Hole, which is going to set our opponent's special summon monster in defense position and it can't change it. We are also going to play Gravedigger's Trap Hole, which when your opponent activates a monster effect in their hand or graveyard, or when your opponent's banished monster effect is activated, negate it, and if you do, inflict 2000. Playing Time Space Trap Hole, we can then go ahead and when your opponent special summons a monster from hand or extra deck, shuffle that monster into the deck, lose 1000 for each returned. And then for more generic stuff, we're playing the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadine. It's a really decent extender card if we have no traps engraved, which the Traptrix card can easily recur the resources, so that's not much of a problem. And it's level 4, so we can go into our Xyz place. 3 evenly matched in the main. I'm not sure I love this because we do set traps quite often in this deck, so it doesn't always come up, but we can see if there's some case uses. And then 3 infinite impermanence. Now for the extra deck, the main cards we want to focus here are Traptrix Sarah. You can only use each of its effects once per turn, but if a normal trap is activated, aka your Holutea most of the time, you can special summon a Traptrix monster from your deck with a different name. And then if your other Traptrix monster effect is activated, then you can set one whole normal trap directly from deck. So in the case of Mantis we mentioned before, if you go ahead and use its effect, you really need to set that trap, then you can target a set trap that you already have, bounce it to your hand, then set it immediately back so you don't lose it, and Sarah will activate. You'll be able to get a whole normal trap directly from deck. And yes, Holutea does count as a whole normal trap because it has whole in the name. We also play 1 Alamiris. We play 2 Rafflesia, which is basically like going to always be in our inborn. It's protection for all of our monsters, and it has a quick effect to detach a material from this card and send a whole normal trap that meets its activation conditions from your deck to the graveyard. And this card's effect becomes that trap's effect when it's activated. So it's basically just a walking trap hole of any kind that you want. We're playing 1 Pinguicula. It is a really decent card. You can detach material from this card, add a Traptrix monster from deck to your hand, and if a monster owned by your opponent is sent to the grave or banished by a card effect, you can attach one of those monsters to this card as material, so we can go ahead and get our opponent's resources as our own. We play an Exciton Knight, we play a Time Thief Redoer, and we play a Baguska because they're level 4s. Play a Zeus because sometimes we punch in with an XC and can't kill. We play Asa, we play Lingaribo. We also play Traptrix Cularia, which after you activate a whole normal trap card, you can set it instead of sending it to the graveyard, which is decent. And then during the end phase, target a Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon a defense. And finally, Traptrix Oedipus, which basically can buff all of our Traptrix monsters by 1,000 attack and allow for some potential big damage and kills. So this deck has a lot going for it. It is very much a strong control strategy and is a trap deck that doesn't really lose resources. It really is good at recurring its resources from the graveyard and getting combos started. Let's go ahead and show you off some of the duels. All right, we have our first match here, Traptrix versus UA. We have a pretty good grip here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a Traptrix Pudica, which remember, whenever it's normal summon, we're going to add the Traptrix Garden from our deck to our hand. We're going to go ahead and do that, add Traptrix Garden, and then we're going to immediately link off the Pudica into Sarah because Sarah makes this deck work. We're going to go ahead and activate Traptrix Garden, which is going to allow us to get that additional normal summon on our own turn. We're going to go ahead and use that additional normal summon to grab a Mantis, and whenever it's normal summon, we can get any Traptrix monster from our deck to our hand. We're going to go ahead and use that effect to get Arachnocampo, which is protection, and we're going to keep that in our hand. We're going to go ahead and activate Sarah because a Traptrix monster had activated its effect. Sarah can activate to set a whole normal trap. We set Holutea because that allows us to immediately activate it, discard the Floodgate Trap Hole, and special summon it in defense position. We can then activate Sarah because a Trap Hole card has been activated. We can activate Sarah to special summon Dionea, which is going to get us this Floodgate Trap Hole back set onto our field. We are then going to Xyz the Dionea and the Trap card into an Alamiris. Alamiris can detach 2 materials from itself, special summon a level 4 insect or plant monster from the graveyard. We're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to get Dionea back. And then we're going to go into our Traptrix Rafflesia. Which, keep in mind, Traptrix monsters you control except Rafflesia can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. And your opponent cannot target Traptrix monsters you control except Rafflesia with card effects. So this is a huge card that they're going to have to get through. All right, our opponent's going to go ahead and start by activating Small World. They're going to reveal UA Playmaker. They're going to reveal a Morphtronic Telephone, of all things. And they're going to grab a Gizmek Naganaki, the Sunrise Signal. So I was like, I have no idea exactly what they're playing here. I guess I leaned into that they were playing UA because I saw UA, but here we go. They're going to go ahead and normal summon the Naganaki. They're going to trigger its effect, which allows us to tribute 1 machine monster whose attack equals its own defense. Special summon from deck 1 machine monster whose attack equals its own defense with a lower level than the tributed monster. They're going to go ahead and get the Morphtronic Telephone, which does some cheeky thing with dice rolls, but Unfortunately for them, we have the Traptrix Holotea, which can banish itself from grave to special summon a Traptrix monster from grave in defense position, and because Punica's secondary effect is that when it's special summoned, it can banish a special summon monster your opponent controls, it's going to go ahead and do that and banish the Morphtronic Telephone. We're going to go ahead and activate Sarah because it's a different turn, and the Traptrix monster has already activated its effect, and we're going to set Traptrix Holotea. Naganaki is going to do its effect. It can banish itself from the graveyard. Add to your hand one of your banished face-down machine monsters who attack equals its own defense, so they're just going to go ahead and get the Morphtronic Telephone back. They are then going to go ahead and activate Vernasylph of the Awakening Forest. It can go ahead and discard itself and one monster, send from your deck to the graveyard one earth monster that can be normal summon or set, then special summon an earth monster from your graveyard, blah blah blah. The end of the day is we're going to go ahead and ash that and make sure that doesn't happen. Then they're going to activate UA Signing Deal. This deck is just something else. Just special summon a UA monster from deck immediately. No effects. Can't be used as any material. But it is what it is. He's going to get midfielder out. He's going to go ahead and return midfielder out so he can get Dreadnought Dunker. But then we're going to activate Rafflesia's effect to detach a material from it. And then send a whole normal trap to the graveyard. And its effect becomes that. We're going to send Time Space Trap Hole to shuffle this Dunker back into the deck, and then they're going to take damage. Based on that, they're going to surrender, seeing the writing on the wall. This game really showcases how much interaction the Traptrix have. I mean, we can even see here when we check the field, we still had Floodgate Trap Hole, we still had Holotea, which I guess Holotea would have actually worked, but we still had the Floodgate Trap Hole, and it's just absolutely insane. This deck is crazy. All right, in this game, we have Chaos as our opponent. So, our grip is pretty trap heavy, but we do have the Mantis, so we're going to go ahead and normal summon Mantis to be able to get a Arachnocampus to our hand. We're going to go ahead and link off into a Sarah. We're going to set and activate Holotea, pitching our Trap Hole card. We always want to pitch a Trap Hole card because Diana can only get Trap Hole cards back from the graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and summon the Holotea off of that. We're going to activate Sarah, going ahead and special summon the Diana. Diana is going to be able to set the Nightmare to our field. Then Sarah is going to go ahead and activate because Diana activated and be able to set Gravedigger's Trap Hole. We're going to go ahead and XZs into Rafflesia. We're going to go ahead and set Imperm, hold the evenly matched, and pass our turn. Our opponent is going to do Branded Regain, and obviously at this point I was thinking that we were playing Branded, so my whole mindset immediately changed. Then they're going to activate Chaos Space, pitching Core of Chaos and having Shell of Chaos. These are two cards I legitimately have never seen in my life. Then they're going to go ahead and activate Allure of Darkness. They just need some more draw power here. They're going to go ahead and get some cards back from their banish. And they're going to activate that Core once again, banishing the Shell of Chaos, but we're going to trigger Gravedigger's Trap Hole to negate that effect. Sarah's going to activate because we use this trap card, and we're going to go ahead and try to get a special summon of a Traptrix monster. Bistio Magnemite is going to try to banish the Core of Chaos, special summon itself out, which is going to be fine. And we are going to get out Myrmelio. Myrmelio is going to activate and pop the Branded Regained. Magnemite is going to try to activate, and then we are going to activate Rafflesia. We're going to pitch Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. We're going to negate that effect, and then we are going to destroy that card. So we just wiped the field off of that just because Rafflesia is such a busty card. All this interaction is happening, and yet, just because Rafflesia and a couple of traps set are in the back, like, it didn't matter. Like, Magnemite couldn't even go off. We're going to go ahead and set Holotea, and our opponent is going to go ahead and normal summon Chaos Mirage Dragon. It's going to activate its effect. We're just going to imperm it. He's going to Chaos Space banish. Go ahead and get him a card. And the draw wasn't good enough. And we're going to go ahead and get the W. So once again, I think this game shows just how much interaction this deck can have. And I mean, we played through all sorts. We played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and even the Core, which I think is at hand 7. Played through like 7 different cards that they played. And it didn't matter. We still had the Terrifying Trap Hole in the back. It was absolutely incredible. And if they somehow wiped the board, we had evenly waiting for them. The last game I'm going to show you here is against Galaxy Eyes. We go ahead and open with a decent grip here, so we're going to normal summon Dionea, which isn't the best here. I would rather that be a Myrmelio or a Mantis or even a Pudica, but sometimes you just don't get it. We're going to link off into Sarah, then we're going to Parallel Exceed, and this really showcases the power of Parallel Exceed in this deck. Because Sarah has a link arrow pointing down, we can go ahead and special summon Parallel Exceed, which is going to get another one onto the field, and we can go ahead and go directly into an Alamiris. Then we can go ahead and special summon Arachnocampa. We're going to do Sarah as its effect, and then we're going to set Traptrix Holutea. Holutea can activate pitching the Traptrix Trap Hole. We're going to activate Sarah, get Dionea. We haven't used the Dionea's effects yet, so we're going to go ahead and activate Dionea, try to get that Trap Hole back, and then they are going to Nibiru. Unfortunately, unlike many of the lines in this deck, this particular way that I went does in fact die to Nibiru, which is quite unfortunate. Usually this deck doesn't need to go over 5 summons. It can usually get everything it needs to do done in 4. But with the hand that I was dealt, I could not afford to play around it, and so we do get Nibiru here. But we do get to set the Floodgate regardless. They're going to go ahead and do trade-in pitching Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, so now I know what they're playing, and I'm going to go ahead and ash that, because I know that just like Blue Eyes, Galaxy Eyes can be pretty bricky. They're going to just put the Nibiru in defense. We're going to go ahead and activate the Holutea in Graveyard, banish it, special summon the Sarah, which in hindsight was probably a poor choice. We probably could have went Alamiris or anything like that, but I think I was really banking on drawing any sort of a trap, or most likely like trying to draw like a Myrmelia or something and then trigger off a Sarah. But as we'll see, we don't get that. We do get Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadine. We're going to go into battle. Sarah is bigger than Nibiru's defense, so we're just going to beat into it, and then 64 is a lot of damage. Main 2, we're going to activate, then we're going to go to Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadine. Trap activator, we're going to go ahead and get Mantis. Mantis, we're going to go ahead and activate it. We're going to, and this is an example of Mantis as well, we're going to activate Mantis' effect, pitch the Floodgate Trap Hole back into our hand, and then put it back onto the field. We have now used a Traptrix Monster's effect, which Sarah can activate, get us another trap. It is in this moment that I did realize I did miss lethal here. If I would have just went Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadine, got Mantis out, did this whole thing in main phase 1, I would have been able to get 1600 on the board pretty easily. But hey, it happens sometimes. So I'm just going to make Rafflesia instead and pass the turn. They're going to activate Photon Thrasher of all cards. We're going to pitch Time Space Trap Hole, put that back into the deck. We're going to have Gravedigger's Trap Hole. They're going to use Astral Karibo here to special summon itself, but then we have the Floodgate as well. Sarah, we're going to get Pudica special effect. We're going to banish the Astral Karibo, and that's going to be game. So that was the deck. And I think based on what you saw there in the duels and the replays, Traptrix is a legitimate threat. Traptrix is pretty powerful, and it is an extremely budget-friendly option. Given that almost every single card in here, aside from exactly Imperm, Parallel Exceed, Pot of Prosperity, and Nib, are all in the structure deck, aside from the side deck, obviously, and a lot of these cards aren't actually all that expensive to find. The most expensive cards in here are probably the Pot of Prosperity, which you could theoretically change out with an Extravagance, or play something like maybe Small World and try to make a bridge, something else like that, or you could even cut these if you don't think you need the draws, and go into something like another 3 of a hand trap, maybe Effect Veiler or something like that. Maybe these could be even 3 more traps. Who knows? But what I do know is that this deck is pretty powerful. It's got some great starter cards. Parallel Exceed works beautifully with the deck, and I've been pretty impressed with its performance. Now, do I think it's going to be the best deck in the format? No, definitely not. But do I think it can contend up there with the other trap decks from the past and from the current meta, like Labyrinth? Absolutely. This deck has a lot of recursion. It's really easy to get set up. It's really easy to learn. And I think with what's in the structure deck, if you are trying to look to getting into Yu-Gi-Oh!, want to take it at a bit of a slower pace, and want to sort of control the game rather than do some heavy combo at the start, well, Traptrix might just be the deck for you. I mean, buy it for the Ash alone, and then have the added benefit of having a decent deck to go along with it. So, I hope you enjoyed. Please hit the subscribe button if you did. It really helps me out. And please, down below in the comments, let me know if you like this new format where I sort of use some previous replays that I just pre-do ahead of time and then commentate over them so you can see exactly how it's done. I feel like that might just make it better because I tend to focus better when there's, no recording or anything involved. But let me know what you think down in the comments below, or if you want me to revert back to the way that I did it before. With that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.